Brownell, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
I'm excited. We're gonna have fun.
Before we jump into the science and the practice, let's define what is a wish.
Okay, let's get into it. I like to explain the difference between a wish, a prayer, and a goal. I think that's the context to put it in, right? And we all know what a goal is. You set a plan, you make it happen. You want to take a vacation or run a marathon or get an advanced degree, you set a plan. And it's something in your control. And then a prayer is usually for something outside of your control. So you're asking for help from a force or influence, whatever that is, outside of your control. And wishes occupy kind of a beautiful middle ground because they include things that are in your control and they also look at things and engage things that are outside of your control. So they're in that way, they're almost more powerful than prayers or goals. And the concept that we're going to get into, I'm sure, is the difference between a wish and a cosmic wish. And a cosmic wish is when you apply science to it. So that's the framework. Is when I started researching this, I was like, wow, did you know every time you make a wish, you engage over a dozen sciences?
Wow, that's fascinating.
And
How
you
did
know,
you become interested in this? And what's your background?
many years ago, somebody said, Brownell, you're an explorer and you'll always be an explorer. And so I like learning. I'm a storyteller. I've written over a dozen books, fiction and nonfiction. And in this particular time, I was writing a semi-autobiographical novel. And then and it was kind of written in four parts. And the fourth part, I write to describe this upstairs that I call it, and this magical world of wishes, and how do wishes happen in this metaphysical world, magical realism. And so my mind was in this like, okay, well, what is a wish and how are wishes responded and how do they flow through the system if there's some sort of postal system upstairs? And then one night I was listening to a science lecture because I'm kind of weird and listen to science in the middle of the night if I can't sleep. Um, and instead of putting me to sleep, it woke me up, like literally. And I'm thinking, there's science and wishing, and so that kind of led to this huge adventure and my book, where I've researched over 70 different scientists. And so that's kind of how it all got to be. I just turned it into kind of an obsession.
And it's interesting that you've actually looked to the research around this concept because for some it sounds a little wishy-washy, I suppose. But what you've discovered is mechanisms that can support wishing.
Yeah, I mean, everything from anthropology, sociology, psychology, neuroscience, quantum physics. Like, I mean, it just turned into like I like to say it's like a big cosmic or scientific whack-a-mole because it's like sciences just kept popping up all over the place. Psychobiology, I mean, and so yeah, once you start looking at that and understanding that, then you go, okay, if I understand the science, then I can make my wish stronger and I bring more into my control. And you're right, because people do think of a wish as being, I mean, they don't have a negative, except they just don't necessarily take it seriously or think it's anything that solid. But like with the anthropology, every culture around the world has rituals on wishing. I mean, collective wishing, people getting together and wishing together has been a driver of survival since the dawn of humanity. I mean, it's really important. And I like to kind of make people think, okay, let's look at it the opposite. What if we had a world without wishing? Like, what kind of world would it be? And the science tells us that it can lead to paralysis and apathy and what they call learned helplessness. I mean, it's important stuff. So, and it's also fun, it's science and fun, right?
Amazing. So, what is the process for a wish? And it comes naturally. Even the most rigorous evidence-based researcher out there makes wishes. They wish for their book to be widely well received. They wish for a nice
And I wish for your
holiday.
books to be. I know you got a new one, so I wish for that for you too.
Thank you, thank you. So, what exactly is a wish? So maybe we could get practical and what happens? What's going on in the background when we make a wish?
Well, let me take you through just a little bit of a scenario, right, to set the
Thanks.
stage, right? Because this is storyteller in me wanting to set that stage. But just imagine you're blowing out candles on a birthday cake, or you see a shooting star, maybe you're throwing a coin into a fountain. What do you wish for? Just take a moment, people listening, you too. Like, what are you wishing for? Imagine it happening, like see it happening, feel the feelings, the sights, the scents, the sounds, like you really
Mm.
okay?
Should I share it?
You can if you want, and there's science behind sharing. So this is an important aspect, to getting it, and just that sometimes we have to be careful who we share with because there's yay-sayers and naysayers, right? And we want the yay to align with us. But in this case, I think I can't wait to hear it if you're willing to share.
I just have this. I'm running a public live event on September 19th in my hometown, which is called Tauranga, New Zealand. And I've booked a theater, and the wish was just to give people an amazing experience.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so one of the things that, and I have kind of my principles that I came up with and then, validated by science is, and that fits. We can probably keep reframing it to make it stronger, right? And I can tell you ways to make it, use science to make it stronger. So we can kind of take you through that. And if somebody's listening or watching and they're like, I got my wish, let me go through this process too, right?
Let's do it.
One of them is that I call it the three P's. So the wish should be peaceful, positive, and purposeful. Okay. And peaceful is, and all three of them, but peaceful is like you're making it from a peaceful place, which I could see. I could see your energy while you were making it. Right. And you're wishing for something that's peaceful. Right. So what you're wishing for is peaceful. Positive, so that you weren't wishing like, oh, hope it doesn't fail. You were wishing for it to be a meaningful experience.
Hmm.
And so that's wishing for something positive. It's really important for the brain to do that. And we can explain. So, like protests have a problem because they're wishing against, and they're not rallying people toward a positive movement because they're not wishing for, right? So you can have make love, not war, but if it's just not war, that's not going to get you there, right? You gotta
Mm.
be looking for peace, not looking in the right way. And then purposeful is really also woven into your wish, which is, you know, not only are you helping people, but are there people that can help you? I mean, that because we can get into the science of the multiplier and the mirror neurons. You probably know that. I know you know a lot of your science stuff too because I read your book. That when you have a collective story and then people are seeing this. So one of the things you can do with your wish is turn it into a story. Okay, so it's like, oh, let's turn this into a story. People are coming and they leave the event and they're so motivated and elevated and they feel so good and they're so glad they came. And if they have a wish, it's they wish they'd brought all of their friends to it, and so make it purposeful and they really feel like this is changing something. And I know you're going to ask me about it, but I did a text talk this week, and afterwards, some people were like, "You just changed my life. Like I'm going to do this thing completely differently after this talk." And it was like, wow. I mean, like that's what you want, right? That thing that they're going to take forward. So the three P's is a good science, and then I'll let you ask more questions, but I could keep adding sciences to it.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. A wish seems less resource intensive than, for example, telling someone to journal or telling someone to visualize or create a business plan. You can do it anytime. Should you be reinforcing that wish regularly? Is it a one and done? What are your
That's no,
recommendations?
that's a very key science, right? And again, it's fun talking to you because I know you know a lot of this stuff, right? It's just maybe you haven't put it in the framework of a wish. And that is that, yes, the ritual part, the anthropology and the ritual is important, right? So that's why I started with candle on a birthday cake or whatever. And it is fun to look at like the history of they were either fire, earth, or water or air, that were a lot of the rituals from history were brought in. But it really, from a scientific standpoint, and this time it's neuroplasticity and not anthropology, is to repeat it every day. So take that minute, whatever, and you need that ritual. So maybe it's a time on the clock, maybe it's when you're brushing your teeth, whatever that ritual is, think of something you can commit to doing every day. And that will remind you to do it. It also, and you probably know neuroplasticity research, you repeat it, then you start rewiring, you start seeing it, right? And there is some interesting science about, like I said, you visualize it. There's some contrary science, and this is where it gets complicated, and this is where scientists might go, okay, Brownell, I can add to that. But is you do want to see it happening and you want to believe that it can happening because you want to see that connection. I do not agree with oh, it's already happened, so assume it happened. Because that turns off the next part of the science, which is the reticular activating system, which I'm sure you know about, right? Those who don't know about that, have you ever thought about buying a certain model of car and then all of a sudden you see it everywhere? That's your reticular activating system. It's a part of your brain. When you solidify that wish, it's going to look for those solutions. And it's going to, and you're going to all of a sudden meet people who you're going to meet somebody else who just did an event like that, and you're going to get tips, and you're going to feel good because you know you can do the same thing. You'll read books, you'll see signs. This is science. Your brain is looking for those solutions. So that's where it's important to repeat it, and also from the polyvagal and psychobiology point of view, just spending a minute a day being peaceful, positive, and purposeful, being in that space is going to help your energy. Aside from what you're wishing for, just that energy is going to help.
And of course, a wish without action may not happen, or is it? What would you recommend? Because I know if I have a wish around that event in September, I'm actually going to be doing things leading up to it that will, I'm sure, shape whether it's successful or not. So the action part of it is obviously important too.
And if you repeat it, you won't even think about the action. It'll just come to you. Uh,
Mm.
Now, another science, and I get into this a lot in the book, and we can go in whatever depth, but is the what you call the three selves, whether you want to call it id, ego, super ego, or conscious, subconscious, super conscious, or mind, body, spirit. Um, because that was one thing that really blew my mind when I wrote my first book. Was like, oh, the body is the subconscious. All of a sudden, woo, you know. I mean, it's a simple thing. You know it. You're like, of course it is. But when you first hear that, you think, oh, wait a minute, I never thought about that. Make sure your subconscious is ready to have fun with it. Because if you're looking at that, oh, I got to do this for that event and this for that event, that's not going to be very motivating. But if you, and again, it's psychobiology of when you make it fun, then you're feeling good and you're feeling good and you're making that wish and you're like, you're seeing it. So if I was giving you an adjustment to your wishes, like, it's also really fun. Like, people are having fun. They are glad. They feel good energy. You have fun doing it. You have fun with the energy in the room. Then you're in an even a higher level of energy to manifest that wish.
Mm.
And one of the examples I like to use is, or your subconscious is like a puppy. And kind of imagine you're taking your dog for a walk and the dog runs off. What do? Right? You usually yell at it or chase after it. But what if instead you get excited and go, this way, let's go this way? Then your body's like, yeah, let's do that. That's fun. This is going to be good. I'll go that way. Well, just like the puppy, that's your body is like that. That's when those tasks aren't going to feel like, oh, yeah, I got to do all the stuff to get ready. It's like, let's make it fun to do that. And let's think about this event that's going to be so much fun. So people don't talk about the science of fun enough. So that was an important thing for me to dig into from the research.
Yeah. Well, and when you're having fun, if you just think about meeting someone who is enjoying their experience of life, they're having fun, they're smiling, I'm much more likely to want to do something with them or have a conversation with them or introduce them to someone. So putting that out into the environment is obviously a good thing.
Totally. That's where you have the mirror neurons because then all of a sudden you're echoing and you're reflecting back what each other has from an energy standpoint. Um, and that's where if you tell a really amazing story that gets people motivated and excited and they're seeing themselves in that story, it's not just your story, but you weave it into what something that means something to them, then that's happening on the level of the brain, right? Use woo woo term if we want. And that's what I think, honestly, that I love so much about wishing. Probably if you said it's one thing I love the most is that you can be seriously skeptical or seriously spiritual or religious, and it's all of you can like unite when you realize the skeptical people, you add the science, they can't argue with that. The spiritual people are like, I already know that. I don't need to know the science. I know I get signs when I'm supposed to do something, and the science people, yes, because this is how your brain works to look for those signs and, all these things. So, and you did your talk recently about manifestation and there's a whole concept that I get into in the book. And in the book, I only had like 3 answers, and now I've got like over a dozen of the whole concept of what I call the blue balloon phenomena.
Hmm.
So can I go off onto that tangent?
Please, I'd
'Cause
love
I
to
think
hear.
well, because it fits a lot with what you were talking about. I was like, "Oh, I wanna talk to Brad about this." Is okay, imagine you're driving home and you get this vision of a blue balloon in your driveway. Just out of nowhere, blue balloon in your driveway. And you drive home and look at that, there's a blue balloon on your driveway. What could possibly explain that?
Yeah, you
There's
tell
over a
me.
dozen explanations, so you can just pick one.
Okay.
You don't have to find the right one. You can just guess. And you may have one that I haven't thought of.
Yeah, I mean, if I found a blue balloon, when I got home, I would assume my daughter had been doing something with balloons. But, you tell me more, keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, some people are like, "Well, you manifested that balloon." Right? You visualized it, you saw it, and you manifested it. Other people might say that you were given a precognition that it would be there.
Yeah.
Other people might say, "Oh, you got a guide or somebody, message from some other dimension, a loved one or whatever. Hey, I'm giving you a sign, pay attention. Like I'm trying
Mm,
to communicate with you." Maybe you look at it like dream analysis and you think, "Okay, what does a balloon mean? What does blue mean?" Maybe it was and I'm sure you probably know the stats. I think it's like in a second, there's 11 million impressions that your subconscious has, but your conscious only has 50 or something. Maybe it was there and you didn't see it. Your subconscious saw it.
yes, makes sense.
So when you're talking about manifestation, now all of a sudden, it could be all these different things, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, precognition, the CIA has been into it for a long time. So people dismiss this kind of thing, but there is evidence. I mean, if the US government is investing heavily in programs that do like remote viewing and so forth, there could be something very real to that, right?
Well, yes, and they're finding science for that. Like there's something they call retrocausality, and it's way fringe, stuff.
Mm,
But maybe you manifested the balloon, the vision after you saw the balloon, but you were able to go back and, give you the vision before you saw it. Like and I just think that for me, again, it's just so much fun to go, there's the what we see as reality, what we see in our spiritual whatever that makeup is, and then when the science comes in and says, "Yeah, well, this is how it's working on the brain. Like, this is why you start seeing signs." Like, I was dealing with something, and, I went to all these doctors trying to get the answer to this problem, and then I thought, "You know what? I'm not even doing my own stuff that I know to do," which is really making friends with my body and asking her and like, "Let's have a conversation and let's, talk to myself." Um, and then all of a sudden, boom, I mean, the next day I see a solution. 6 doctors, 12 doctor visits, nobody knew what the answer was, and it was right there.
really?
And then the next day I see a TV commercial for the solution as well.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, but that's our reticular activating system saying, "Okay, I'm gonna do that," but it's also my body being in alignment with, "Okay, we're working together on this, you're not fighting me, let's get this solution. I'm trying to get you a message, but you're not listening, you're going another path."
Is there
So
such a thing as group wishing?
well, yeah, I mean, that's first of all, since the dawn of humanity, that's what's driven us for survival, right? Is wishing together, wishing for a plentiful crop or, you know, wishing for rain and that kind of thing. And I think we've lost it. I
Mm,
mean, there's some experiments of, intentionality or meditation in a group. My wish and vision is that we start knowing how to take the science and add to it. So, and when people can wish together and then they can have these collective wishing. So, like for you and your event, I mean, wishing for that and then asking for other people to wish with you and they're feeling part of it because they know you have a message to deliver and they're bought in and they're connected with you. And then they're going to go, "Well, I have this idea and I have this solution and I can help you over here and I can help you over there." You know, when you bring it in, you bring other people in on your wish. And if it's something, ideally it's something that's even bigger than that, right? It's like, okay, I want these people to come to this event, or I wish for these people to come to this event because the purpose of this event is to get them to be, understand resilience if that's what your talk is going to be about, right? That's your new book, right?
no, that wasn't a previous one. The new one's called The Flame. It's a methodology for burning bright, not out.
Okay. So, and then, so maybe your wish is that people they leave with their flame lit and they're burning bright and they're following their passion and they're feeling really amazing because they know they've been able to get rid of the out, and now their flame is towards something positive. And maybe the you even expand it further. Again, the bigger your wish, the more people that can buy in on it is, that they will find their purpose and it will elevate the consciousness of the planet. I mean, something like,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
really, really powerful. The more you do that, I mean, I can feel the energy as I'm saying this,
Hmm.
right? Is that then they're buying into that. Well, everybody wishes for, if you say, like, if, for example, you can look at Simon Sinek, because I think you talked about him on one of your posts, right? And I got to meet him a few years ago and I was like, oh, so cool. But what if he had, he could take that message and turn it into a movement by saying, I wish for everyone within by the end of 8 weeks, they found their why and they're living their why. So then all of a sudden everybody wants that. So I want to join that group because I want to find my why and I want everyone else to find their why. And all of a sudden maybe I'm helping somebody else find their why. And together we can support each other's why. And you're building this community to elevate.
Yes. Yes. Does a wish need to be specific, measurable, achievable, and so forth? Or, I mean, is it too vague to say, I just wish for world peace?
I don't think it's too big. I think that for something like that, because it fits the 3 Ps, right? I have talked to somebody said, "Oh, I wish for $1,000,000." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, but that's not fun, really, necessarily. It's just a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers on it, and zeros. What do you want to do with it? Like, where's the energy behind that?" And it's important to look at what you want versus what you need. And as a storyteller, we write stories and, you could probably name a lot of movies and I'd go, or books and that I would know and say, okay, the hero started out wanting one thing, but they needed something else. And by the end of the hero's journey, they found out that they didn't, like Luke Skywalker wanted adventure, but what he needed is to find out, his purpose and his connection to being a Jedi, right? So let's evaluate that. And so, like, I look at the 4 responses to a wish and I get into that, which is, it's yes, no, wait, or something better. And yes isn't always the best answer. And so that helps when we start looking at that and we can imagine, okay, what if yes, but we want that Ferrari, and you know, maybe you were wishing for, I wish 100 people would show up to my event. That's not enough to say, and they were left feeling incredible and lit up and ready to find their purpose, right? Because a number doesn't get you excited, but how they feel adds the energy to it. So,
Mm,
and sometimes no is a better answer, right? I mean, and I talk about what I call reverse optimism, when you can look back and go, okay, that didn't happen, or that happened this way, but it led me here, that led me here, that got me here. And if that hadn't happened, so that's where I think when you were talking about a manifestation, is sometimes we wish for something or the manifestation movement might go, you just had to want it bad enough. And if you didn't want it bad enough, then something was wrong with you. And it's like, there's so much more to it than that. And so when you understand those nuances, then you're really getting to the good stuff.
nice. And what if you make a wish and it doesn't come true? How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, well, sometimes, like I said, sometimes the answer is wait. And
Wait.
and that could be you're not ready or the world's not ready, right? And if it's you're not ready, it might mean you have 10 things to do, and once you've done the 10th thing, then you're ready, right? And you just wanted it at a level 2 and you weren't ready, you needed to wait till you were at a level 10. Or it could be, okay, this is happening in the world, or this is happening in the community, or this had to happen outside of, somebody else had to write this book for me to write this book so I could leverage that. There's things that may have to happen. So that's where you don't beat yourself up, right? And think, okay, and maybe it's something better, because sometimes we limit our wishes and it could be that much bigger. Maybe your show is live streamed to millions of people. I mean, like, maybe it's even bigger than what you thought. Let's give ourselves the freedom to, explore
Absolutely.
piece of that.
Yeah, yeah. And often when I look back and something didn't turn out exactly the way I would have liked, it's such a powerful learning experience, which you then use to refine your future wish.
That's right. That's right. And so, over the 8 weeks, because neuroplasticity says you have to repeat it, over those 8 weeks, you can kind of keep reframing and refining your wish. And you can go and look at it and say, okay, I wish this relationship would happen. I want this particular person. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I just want these characteristics. And all of a sudden now my wish is bigger because I want these characteristics that I got there, but now I want more and I want these other things too. And sometimes we're limiting ourselves. And, even if it's a bad experience. My first book is called Five Reasons Why Bad Things Happen. So I literally wrote the book on bad, things happening for a reason. And but even if it's that, like you said, if you go, I got through it and it got me here, then you're so much stronger as a person because the next time, and life will have up and downs. I mean, let's just accept that that's part of what happens. The next time it happens, you're like, I know that it can get me somewhere. And if I can look and say, maybe it can guide me, there's something I need to change in my life. And if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't get me to change that. Let's go down that way.
And would you suggest people implement a specific time of day? You mentioned it earlier on, but if you leave things to chance, especially when you've had a bad night's sleep or you're really busy and overwhelmed, you forget these practices. Do you think that a morning wish or an evening wish or both, like for someone out there who's thinking, I would like to implement this as a kind of practice like my journaling or my meditation or my fitness, whatever it is, what would you recommend?
I don't know the research on that. There might be. I would just say that once you are, if something that can remind you, right? So a lot of people are, oh, I see 11:11, boom, that's my time, or 4:44 on the clock, or whatever, right? So some people just get, and then once you repeat it and you tell your subconscious to look for it, that reticular activator says, like, oh, I just noticed, like you say, you see a certain
Mm,
car or a certain time of the clock, you're going to notice it. And so you just built that pattern. And so I don't know. I mean, for some people, some of us, it might be like, I got to get it out of the way or I won't remember it. And
mm.
that's fine. For some, it might be that first star of the night, that might be the thing, that gets them going. So I don't know if it differs or if there's a specific science to that, to be honest.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I always think if you're going to build a new habit, attach it to something that's already reliable, such as brushing your teeth.
Right.
Then you gradually upscale the habits that work for you, the atomic habits approach. And maybe the identity to attach to it is I am a person who wishes, or I'm a person who wishes peacefully, purposefully, and what was the other one?
Positively.
Positively, of course, yeah. And then at least you've got an identity that triggers the positive emotion, and you just remind yourself, put a post-it note on the mirror, and it's
Right.
just something that you build into your routine.
I mean, it doesn't take that long for your brain to remember it,
Yeah.
especially if it feels good, right? If the wish is going to feel good, you're going to look forward to that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's gotta
exactly.
feel good, it's gotta hopefully be fun, like, you're imagining that
Mm.
that being fun, not just powerful, but fun, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That you have fun getting it ready and thinking of the people you're gonna impact and that kinda thing. So, all of the things that are gonna work in your favor, and then at some point, the neuroplasticity is gonna be you will just do it because that's our your br because our brain is plastic, as you know, right? So,
yeah.
repeating it, our brain will start doing that thing, and you just have to also know how to identify the things that might block you from doing it, and part of that is subconscious sabotaging you or me with like, okay, I was dealing with this thing. I was like, and I wasn't arguing with my body, but I was just kind of going the traditional, let's see what the doctors think. And I was like, well, let me talk to her. Let me just, like I'm just like telling her, I love you. And I don't know if you know the Huna religion, but they say it's important to name your body.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's really powerful stuff, but, um and then I was like, and then I was just like, how can I help you? What do you need from me?" And boom,
Yeah.
there it is in the grocery store, and I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for something completely different, no idea that it was gonna be there. I was like, "What is that?" There's the solution.
Tell us a little bit about that Huno religion. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's a Polynesian religion, and a friend of mine was really into it, and it's in some ways it's like Psychology 101 with a twist. You've heard the expression probably, "the big kahuna"? Well, the kahuna is the head of the Huna tribe, so that's how we all kinda know that phrase, but we don't know who or what the big kahuna is. It's the head of the tribe. But it's basically Psychology 101. It just says you have a name for your higher self, a name for your conscious, and your higher self or superconscious, a name for your conscious, which is your name, Brad, and then a name for your subconscious or body. And I will give you a trick. You can't tell them, they have to tell you, which is like what's called the default mode network. How do you get into that mindset till you have that communication coming to you? Us. But when you find out that, then basically then you can have conversations saying, "What are you doing? What do you want to do today? How do we feel today? How do you feel about this fish?" Because the body might go, "I don't want that Ferrari. I don't want to be looked at like that, and I don't want people to think I'm this kind of I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting a Ferrari, that's up to people, but generally the science does say it's not going to give you much happiness. You get
Yeah.
5 minutes of happiness for all of that effort. Something else would have made you a lot happier.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've seen that so many times with people that I've coached. They've just been on that relentless pursuit of stuff, and ultimately, I mean, I've got a friend who does love his Porsche 911, but he doesn't drive it very often. So I'm like, well, what's the point? You keep it in the garage because you love it so much, and it's going to slowly rust away. But the hedonic treadmill is definitely real. What else did you discover in your research? Because it sounds like you've gone deep into lots of different fields. Anything else interesting, whether it's related to wishing or not, that you would like to share?
Well, I have a chapter on the science of storytelling, and I might actually write a book on that specifically. It's fun, and as a storyteller, it was like, "Oh my god, this is really cool." And then I'm also writing a follow-up book, The Art and Science of Wishing at Work. And that was one of the things I wanted to bring up with you because,
Please.
and that's really for companies going through transition, any big kind of change. And you're like, what does that have to do with wishing? And it's like, well, your book about values, I told you I really enjoyed. And if you think about it, a value, what if you take a value and turn it into a wish, right? So it's not just value of integrity, but I wish everyone could model this feeling of integrity. Then all of a sudden, everybody's feeling that in a different way than just some poster on a wall. Uh, so I quote you in that book, and I told you that, but I wanted you to know that.
I'm happy to be in the book. So what can you tell us about the science of storytelling?
Yeah, well, part of it, one of the aspects is I start with mythology and the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell, right? And I mean, there's interesting patterns and of history of how we tell stories. And I actually wrote a book last year, published it last year, that's called The Hero's Playbook. So it's like a playbook with activities to help you go, either for the hero and all of us, either you're writing a story about heroes or you want to take yourself through the journey of I use the Vogler 12 steps as opposed to the 17 steps from Campbell. But that's one of them, is that understanding there are steps and understanding that there's a call to adventure. And then there's usually a refusal of the call because all of a sudden we're going, oh crap, do I really want that? you know, and the tests and the things. And like I was at a meeting a while ago and there was there were entrepreneurs and this person was saying, oh, I don't think people are going to want me to coach them or want me to help them because I've got, all these flaws. I'm like, are you kidding? I mean, we love heroes with flaws. Like, we don't want a hero that everything went great and they never, boom, they started
Mm,
out with the girl and it was love. And no, we want to see the development and the growth.
yeah.
You know, that's who we put as a hero, right? And the harder they went through, the more that we admire their ability to go through that. So that there is the mirror neurons I mentioned, which you're telling a story and people are connecting to you on that kind of level. So there's just different ways to kind of connect and, emotionally, physically, intellectually. And, like I said, I have a chapter on it. I could probably write another book on that whole aspect. And the other thing I talk about is what's called the default mode network. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and for people listening, I get the best way to tell it is that Thomas Edison had a way to find access this information, and he would take a nap with a steel ball in his hand, and he would nap in his chair with a steel ball in his hand. And as soon as he starts to nod off, he'd drop the ball, and that would bring him right into the space, and that's the default mode network. It's when one part of your brain turns off, like you're trying to solve a problem, that turns off. Kind of think you're zoning out, but actually another part of your brain's turning on to look for solutions. And so it's different from the reticular system, it's a part of that. And writer or Aaron Sorkin, I love his story where when he's in writing mode, he takes a shower. And when he's in writing mode, he may take 7 showers a day
What? Wow.
because
Very
that's
keen author.
getting into the default mode network. Like that's that part of that creative part of the brain. So, you can go for a walk or exercise or clean the house, and all of a sudden, you've thought about a word and couldn't remember it, and then boom, you're doing nothing. And it's actually like that's there is a part of your brain that physically lights up that helps you access that creative space. So that's also part of the storytelling, right?
Hmm.
And I understand that this is a really interesting and like one of the other stories is Albert Einstein, I don't know if you know how he came up with the concept of relativity. Do you know that story?
Don't think so.
He was daydreaming about what it would be like to ride alongside a beam of light.
No way. Wow.
Isn't that great? I love that story.
Uh, it's sometimes the simplest things. We think that these academics, geniuses like Edison or Einstein went through the maths to get to the ideas, but often what I've seen is it was things like that. It was a daydream. It was, well, sitting next to a tree and an apple drops down. It's things that happen in the real world that give you the inspiration to then go and deconstruct it mathematically, find the physics behind it. It's
That's
interesting.
right. That's right. In fact, I call it cosmic collaboration is the kind of the terminology. It's like when an idea comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's there to help us, and people can use a spiritual component to that. They can say it's coming from some sort of spiritual, but there's also quantum physics examples of what you're tying into, right? Non-locality and some of those kind of, some people might say that's fringe, but it's also frontier, research,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of writers like Bob Dylan, my favorite Bob Dylan quote is he said, "Oh, well, the song was there before I came along. I just wrote it down."
Yeah. Many people, Stephen King says the book, you are an archaeologist. You're not a
Yes.
writer. You're finding it. And if you look to some of the most cutting edge physics, there's a channel called the Essentia Foundation, and it's all these hardcore physicists and consciousness researchers, and they're all converging on the fact that maybe consciousness is the substrate and we're kind of navigating and tuning into it in different ways. I mean, some of you out there are probably rolling your eyes already. Go and check it out. Some of the world's foremost academics are saying there's no other way that this could be possible than we are tuning into consciousness and we have kind of an interface. And that's our brains and our bodies. And that kind of connects well with wishes as well, because you can influence that cosmic substrate through intention, maybe.
Well, that's where the tricky part of the intention, right, is your intention is to not be intent in a way
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
because you have to release it in order that's why I love the word wish again, because it's like this beautiful release. But, it's not, "I've gotta find a solution," or, "I've gotta make this happen." It's like, I'm just gonna wish, and I'm gonna repeat the wish, and I'm gonna get in this space, and then I'm going to know because that is the trick, right? Is you gotta have a way to capture those ideas when they come to you because it might be in the middle of the night, and I use voice recorder, right? I mean, or when I'm at the gym, like, and you probably surfing, right? Because 'Cause isn't that your jam is surf?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
gotta
love
be
it.
DMN thing, right? You probably get all kinds of cool stuff. And then when you're talking about the science, like, they're talking about, the spirit molecule of DMT and that we have it in our bodies, and that's there's actually really interesting research how that opens up some sort of connection to something outside of us. You know
It's such a new and emerging field. You've got these researchers mapping the DMT realm, which is incredible. I mean, I just think it's there's some really amazing stuff happening there. But what you just said actually clicked for me because I now understand. So the power in a wish is that you release it, whereas an intention and a goal and a plan, it's rigid. It requires there's tension there, whereas a wish you actually give it back.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, if people just think of the word as wish as being like this different energy to it, because even prayer has got this kind of, hard word and the word phonetically, there's the energy. And all of this stuff, I think science is going to be able to measure. I actually talk about in one of my novels, I think someday science will measure the level of love. and they'll be able to evaluate things based. I know that David Hawkins, you've probably seen some of that research, and, there's some of that some people would say that's pseudoscience. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, it's frontier. People need to keep researching it." But we know the feeling, why can't that be measured, right? We know when we're in the high energy and we know when we're not. And we know physiologically when we're in a happy place and having fun, we know we've got the dopamine and the oxytocin and the endorphins flowing. I don't think we're far away from it.
So for me, what I'm going to do is every night when I get into bed, and it's become a habit, is I practice gratitude for three things that went well. And there's absolutely no reason why not to attach one wish to that. In fact, I worked with a school once upon a time, and they didn't want to single out risks in student behavior. So they said three medals and a wish. So whenever a student wanted to reflect on something, find three things that went well and one wish, rather than saying that you did something wrong.
That's really beautiful, and, I really would like to see, this get into schools and kids, because I think they're gonna take to it even better, right? Because they know what wishing is. They probably it's those of us as adults, we might have, like, thought lost that power or thought it was, you know, superficial, but I love that. That's really, really beautiful. And yeah, one of the activities I have is, because I have all these activities and add-on programs that go with it, but one of them is what I call savoring. It's not just gratitude, but it's savoring. I love this bed. I am so happy to be in this comfortable bed in this quiet space. Just really immersing yourself in that instead of, and I mean, you can do that with gratitude. Just adding that if you're doing gratitude, just wallow in the fact that like, so happy that you have these things that, maybe people take for granted. So savoring has been my new word over the last couple of months. Like, I'm going to this free time, or savor that I get to meet Brad today and we get to have these out there, you know, like really, really feel it.
Absolutely. Savor is a great concept. And I had a few situations recently where I was rushing, running a workshop. And then afterwards, I would have maybe some banana bread or something, and just savoring that experience, savoring the sunrise as it pops up. And I'm staying in my camper van because I'm traveling on the road. It really makes a difference. It's kind of bordering on that sensation of awe. It's not quite the same thing. It's just that delicious. And you can do it jumping into bed in the evening. You would just do that on default. Maybe you would even worry, am I going to sleep or not? Instead of, this is amazing. I've got a warm blanket and it's chilly outside, and now I'm going to make my wish. So tell us about your TEDx talk. The link will be in the show notes as soon as it's out. How did that go?
Yes, my wish is that people watch it, and I'm sure you're gonna put in the notes when it's released. We don't know at this point, so it's all kind of, and it could be months from now. But it was like really hard. I'm not gonna lie. I've done a lot of talks and speeches, and I can do podcast interviews and we can jam on this. But memorizing 10 minutes of a talk was tough. It's a lot tougher than you think.
Yeah.
But afterwards I had some people come up to me and go, "You just changed my life. Like, you just made me look at this thing that I've taken for granted or I never thought about a wish being." And with you and the people listening is, wow, I hadn't thought about this. Let me think about this. Just savor. If all they do is leave the word, feel the word savor, that's the ultimate thing you want to do with a TED Talk, is to get people to maybe think about things a little differently and enhance the idea worth spreading, right? Is the whole kind of point. But there's also things like, one of the things I will add that I wish I had known, I'm going to have a wish there. I knew about it, but I didn't register. So you get so nervous, right, before you're gonna do something like this. And you can't really take I have a kids for children gummy for relaxing, and it's like magnesium and theanine. I mean, it's not like it's anything, but it's not a marijuana gummy, just so y'all know. Um, and I didn't even want to take that because you have to be alert, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like this, but your adrenaline is just going completely crazy, and then all your programming for anything that ever told you you were gonna fail, that stuff ends up popping up.
Yep.
I mean, like, all the stuff, like, 'cause, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime thing, but
Yeah.
I look back and I wanna make sure other people know. I wish I had thought about using EFT, because that would have helped so much. so much. So for those of you who don't know or may not know the acronym, it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, but it's tapping, if you know that. So you're tapping, these parts of your body, and you can go into tapping and say, "I'm at a 9 nervousness level," and then within a couple of minutes, you're at a 4. And it works brilliantly for that kind of situation, and afterwards, I was like, all that adrenaline was gone, so then I was in this and then I was kinda beating myself up for, a word I said wrong or whatever, and so I was like, I could have processed that too, and I wanna cheerlead you on your path to doing a TEDx talk.
Thank you.
That EFT would have helped a lot.
I am sure you've already had people come up to you and say it was life changing. So, everyone, do check out that link in
Thank you.
the show notes. Where would you like people to go if they'd be interested in finding your books, connecting with you, learning more?
Yeah, here shameless plug, here's the book so you can know what to look and I also have the children's book that I mentioned. I'm the only Brownell Landrum in the world, so it's kind of easy to find me. You can, I have a website, brownelllandrum.com, and all my books are on Amazon as well as Apple and Barnes& and Noble and a lot of those places, and Hoopla, if you all have that, in New Zealand or anybody wherever they're listening. And I also have a Facebook page and, TikTok and Instagram and those kinds of things.
Awesome. Great. And all of those links will be in the show notes, everyone. Yeah, if there was one final message that you would like to leave with people. And before I go there, I just wanted to say all of these ideas are popping up, wishing wells. We didn't even talk about that. People have been doing this for a long, long time, wishing when you blow out the birthday candle, wishing upon a star. So it is definitely something that resonates deeply with humans, but it's so interesting that you've gone deep on the research and found the scientific basis for these traditions and these rituals that have been around for a long, long time. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Uh, I guess, just be peaceful, positive, and purposeful. If you can remember one thing, if you just feel that energy, and if you can't sleep or whatever, you're going to bed. If you can just feel peaceful, if that's all you're wishing for is peaceful, positive, and purposeful, that's a good wish.